Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. I'm Jamie, and me, as always, is.
Data?
Joe?
And Dac.
And this week we are reading The Emperor's Soul, covering the prologue, day 2, day 3, and day 5, wherein we are introduced to Gautona, Brava, and the other arbiters discussing a painting that was forged by Shai, who is locked up for her crime and awaiting execution. The Emperor has barely survived an assassination attempt by another faction, and Shai is tasked with forging a new soul for him before his 100 days of mourning the murder of his wife are over, and he once again needs to be seen in public. As always, it's super exciting to start a new story, so hold on to something, everybody. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
I'm not myself, I'm not somebody else. I'm not myself, I'm not somebody else. Don't think of what it's cost me, it was all for a cause. And now it's working inside. I am a perfect copy of whatever I was. Something I don't recognize.
So yeah, I think it's kind of funny that Jamie's like, we meet Frava and Gautona and the other arbiters because they don't get names. It's like you guys are also here, whatever, the three others.
Yeah,
exactly. So what
was it? It was
think?
two women, one man are the other ones?
Yes, I think it's 2 women and 1 man.
Yeah.
So what did you guys think of these 4 chapters? I guess we can still call them days, whatever.
probably easier just to still call them chapters as the purpose of what we're doing. I really liked this. It was really exciting to start something new, but also going into it just after reading Elantris, I think is good because we know it's the same planet at least. I took some notes because I was worried I was not going to be able to remember what I thought. So I think the prologue definitely grabbed my interest a lot quicker than even like Final Empire or Elantris. And even though, because obviously this is a shorter story, we're introduced to things really quickly, but I didn't find myself scrambling for like, oh, what's that? I think it was they're fairly simple concepts so far to look into. So I was really excited about that. I like our main character so far. I think she's pretty cool. Definitely keen to learn a bit more about her, and the magic as well also sounds really interesting. I'm kind of glad we didn't have to wait, ages to have this magic introduced. And I'm kind of interested to see how it ties into possibly what we saw with the Dark monks, like, carving on bone and carving in stone and all that sort of stuff. I think that'd be really cool. And I also like that we haven't jumped around different viewpoints at this point. It's nice to have something a little bit simpler to start with. But yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm really keen to keep reading it, actually.
Yeah, it definitely seems, like you said, like they're not throwing a bunch of super complicated stuff at you. And at the same time, she throws out a lot of explanation of how this magic works in this short period of time. And I agree. It's somehow it's like, it's not a simple magic thing either. Like there seems to be a lot of ins and outs to it, but it doesn't feel like you're not confused or anything, even though it's just a real quick and we've gotten a lot of information about it, which I think is really impressive the way he did it. Yeah,
really, really good. And we know that like Brandon puts a lot of thought into his magic systems, and like particularly with like on Scadrial with the magic behind all the metals and everything like that there was a little bit of science in them. Like I really like that he puts a lot of thought into it. There is a lot of detail there, but this just was not needlessly complicated. So yeah, really good.
Yeah, I thought this was interesting. I really like Shai. I think she's a cool character to be following. It feels like a real Weekend at Bernie's thing they're trying to set up for here.
I never thought about that, but it totally does.
Yeah, like I got a lot of Weekend at Bernie vibes from this. And so I'm more interested just to see how the actual soul forgery works, because it seems like that's not something that should be able to happen, even with this like kind of magic system that we're talking about. It's just like a strange kind of thing that doesn't seem plausible, even with what we've witnessed. And I'm making an assumption here, but I'm assuming this is one of the kingdoms on Elantris that we didn't learn about in Elantris, just based on the fact that this is all kind of we're reading this from the Ars Arcanum in that section. So so I'm making that assumption that may not be true. But so this is cool to me just because we're getting to look at a different aspect, I guess, of maybe if I'm wrong, then no, but if I'm right, then an effect of the same shards on this on the planet. So that is something that I'm interested to know, if it is the same if it is Elantris or if it's a different planet. Inquiring minds want to know. But yeah, I like the Arbiters seem kind of weird. I almost thought with the description of Shai that they were kind of going for some kind of vibe where the race of the people were supposed to be like maybe Asian, but I can't really tell exactly what's happening. So with that, with like we said, he's not describing the people per se, like saying this is what they look like. It's more kind of as you go. It's like, well, she has long hair and she has this and she has that. But and maybe I'm also just taking my cues from the artist like drawing at the beginning of the story. But yeah, so I enjoyed it. I'm interested to see where it's going to go, especially if you said this is one of your favorite of his short stuff. Then I'm excited for the possibilities.
So we could answer your question, because when she in day 2, when she gets taken in there and shown the Emperor, it says Emperor Ashravan of the 80 Sons, 49th ruler of the Rose Empire. Which, if you remember back, we've even made some
the
jokes.
Rose Barbarians.
The Rose Barbarians is a like above Teod, beyond the mountains. There was like Rose Barbarians question mark on the map, and so here's a big old empire up here that they're like, oh yeah, there's a few dudes up there. Who knows?
They mentioned that in the text of the Elantris, didn't they? Someone mentioned them somewhere.
Well, that's interesting too, that they think they're barbarians, because it sounds like, I mean, besides the assassination attempts, it sounds like their system's pretty like sophisticated. Like you have different parties that vie for power within their kingdom, which sounds sophisticated, I guess, on the outside, but if there's a lot of assassination attempts, maybe it is kind of barbaric.
Yeah, I just get the feeling that maybe they just don't know much about them. And we did read in the Celish system essay that it's like there's basically 3 big empires on the planet, and they kind of pretend that the other ones aren't really big deal. It's like, oh, that's just a small little whatever over there. We don't care about them. And so that's the impression that I have here, is like you've got the area with Fjorden and Arelon and stuff, and that's just this one big area. And then they know that there's some more people on other parts of the planet, but they're like, it's just a few guys. There's nothing to worry about. And meanwhile, you have like the Rose Empire, which from what we learn in these chapters seems to encompass like several groups of people, several maybe even nations. And they're like, there's, we're doing our thing. We don't care about the other people.
Well, what did it say? It was like there are 80 parties vying for power within their kingdom.
Yeah, it was something like there was
some ridiculous number. Yeah,
but definitely does not seem small, and they seem to have a government where there's I don't know if it's election is exactly the right word, but it's not a simple government. It doesn't seem like to me.
Yeah, this is like good little sections. Like interesting to see like another part of the world and like just a different culture. I definitely it seems like it's sort of inspired by like the Chinese dynasties, I guess, if I had to put a historical influence on this part of the culture. But it seems interesting, like a new use of the magic, which honestly sounds really strange and weird to learn. Yeah, I feel like just there was a reference, like one of them, I can't remember who, mentioned something about Svordish, and it's like, okay, so you guys know about the Arelon feudal side of the world, and they don't know jack about you. So I guess these guys are probably in the lead in that regard. So I sort of pictured these guys as sort of a Wakanda. It's like, oh yeah, we've got like, we're the barbarians, and they've just got the front out there that like the rest of the world can't see through, and meanwhile they're hiding behind this super sophisticated empire behind them. So yeah, no, like this was a little taste, and it was fun to see. I really want to get into more of it and just see, okay, what else is actually going on here? I need to know more about the assassination attempt and how the magic's going to work.
Yeah, there's more information definitely that I could see wanting to try to get at this point. The part about the magic system, and we're actually kind of introduced to 2 magic systems in this section, and but both of them, kind of like Aeon Door, and I guess kind of like the decor stuff, involves writing or drawing or whatever. So it's apparently on this planet that's a big thing.
Yeah, it's like similar enough to the Aeons. Like you still have to draw things with specific precision but different enough that it's like it's still its own little thing.
Mm. Yeah, and also I was just thinking about this as we were talking. We also don't know when this story takes place in the timeline. At least you didn't tell us, did you?
No, I did not, and I don't think that there's any official been said for sure. He has said that if he does, Elantris sequels, then this is a character who could be in there. But if that happens before or after this or whatever, if she lives, if she doesn't, who knows? But that doesn't tell us too much necessarily, except that maybe it's generally around the same time.
I feel like 100% you just told us that person lives.
That's what you think. Sorry, I was looking at that the timeline that I was telling you guys about last time. That that doesn't make much sense. I don't think that could be correct, because this shows as being like 200 years after Elantris, which I don't see how the character could show up unless it turns out that she's a lot older than we thought. I don't know that it says her age in this, so maybe she is. Maybe these people live a long time. Okay, I guess let's get into the thing. I was just looking at that the first picture, or the picture, I guess. They didn't do a lot of pictures in these, but it's a very interesting. I can see what you mean about it definitely has an Asian feel to it, and I mean her name alone sounds kind of Asian, so that does seem to be kind of a thing. But I really like the look of this the picture, and she's like stamping a wall and it's transforming in some way or something. And at the beginning of each chapter, you see an image, which is I think that is supposed to be a stamp, one of these stamps that they keep talking about that has been carved in detail to do something. Who knows what this one does? But
Interesting.
I guess that's kind of what they look like, just squiggles and craziness. Theoretically, it all means something, I suppose. But we do start out in all the chapters that we read, like I think Jaymee mentioned, they're kind of all from Shai's perspective. The prologue is the only one so far that we've had that's kind of in a different perspective, because it's a meeting going on that she's not there for, so you couldn't really have that in her head. But we do meet Gautona and Frava. They're buddies who are all arbiters. There are 5 arbiters in this empire who have, as we learn later, the power in the government, basically. Like, next to the emperor, these are the people who have the most power. They like run stuff. And Gautona is looking at a painting that was done, and he's very impressed by the painting. And meanwhile, the others are talking about, oh, well, this woman's dangerous, but she's one of the best forgers alive. We gotta execute her. And Frava, leader of the arbiters, is like, no, we can use her. We have to use her. She can save us. Gautona, on the other hand, is just like, why would somebody who can do art this amazing, like, not be an artist? Why would they be forging stuff? I feel like just because you're really good at art does not necessarily mean you're going to make it as an artist. I feel like that's what you see a lot.
That's very true.
And at least on TV shows that I've seen, it's always like, oh yeah, this guy is really good. He couldn't sell that much of his own art, and he ends up being a forger. Different kind of forger than this, although apparently kind of similar. They use this forger with a capital F that seems to have to do with like this magical stuff. But this painting is also just, he's talking about like the brush strokes and stuff. So apparently she actually did this painting. It wasn't some magical trickery.
Everyone needs a hobby.
And so they're talking about Wan Shai Lu, who in her own head, when we're in her perspective, is just Shai, which is, I'm kind of thankful for. That's much easier to say. And he even thinks, like, why would she even bother learning to paint? She has these magical powers. Like, that's kind of a waste of time, isn't it? And so Frava wants to use the forger, and the others are not so sure until Gautona finishes his introspection, and he's like, no, call for her. I don't think she's going to be as easy to control as Frava says, but we don't really have another choice. We either use this woman's skills or give up control of the empire. Which, for everyone reading it for the first time, it's like, wow, that's very dramatic. I wonder what it is that a forger can do that will keep them in control of the empire. And we cut to Shai, who's in prison, examining the walls of her prison. She's found a vein of limestone. It's the 44th type of rock in the wall of her circular pit of a prison cell. That's gonna be a weird looking wall, right? With that many different kinds of stone in there.
It's like it's like a mural for a stonemason or something.
Yeah.
Like, you'd imagine I guess it's probably commonplace if they got this sort of magic system working, they have to imprison these forgers all the time. But I'm just imagining them going to the stonemason. It's like, yeah, look, I need you to make a wall with all these different types of rock, and the mason's just like, oh, gee, what? Come on, that's gonna take forever.
Now, I wonder how common they are. I wonder if there's like a few of these here, or if they're all over the place, or. But apparently, it is specifically made, as Dac says, for forgers to keep them from being able to forge it easily. She says all the rocks would have come from different quarries and would have unique histories to make them more difficult to forge. She's been waiting, trying to figure out a way out of here, and is scheduled to be executed on the morrow, as they say. Probably kill you tomorrow. No, we did the Dread Pirate Roberts in the last book. Never mind. And so the guard that shows up, or the 4 guards, accompanying a man with long features and fingers, a Grand, the race who led the Empire. So apparently we've got multiple races. She mentioned specifically that her race is known for being kind of short, the My Pawn. That'll come up in a bit. And the guards are like another race also, strikers as they were called. So this Rose Empire is a society that encompasses a lot of different groups of people, it seems like. And we don't even know if like those individual, like where these people are from, make up the 80 factions or whatever that vie for control of the Empire, because they're not named after places. They're like the faction in charge is the Heritage faction, and another one's the Glory faction. So it's like, okay, well, that's not a place. I don't know.
Yeah, we really need a map of of the Empire and I guess of their capital city as well.
That would be helpful. Any kind of map, any kind of knowledge.
And so the guards are like, the arbiters want to interrogate you, and she's like, hey, wait, maybe this is an opportunity, or are they lying to try to get me to walk to my execution willingly? It's a good thought. And she thinks about how she was betrayed by the Imperial Fool when she assumed she could trust him, and he'd taken her copy of the Moon Scepter and swapped it for the original and run off. So, nice guy, the Imperial Fool. She has her uncle's, he told her that being bested was a rule of life. There's always going to be somebody better. So she's got to deal with it. Some wisdom there. There you go.
Well, yeah, there's wisdom, but I feel like there's also holes in that logic. It's like, if you live knowing that someone is always better than you, you will never grow so confident that you become sloppy. I'm like, yeah, but you could also just be like, well, if there's always gonna be someone better, how can I do better? So, and then you just get lazy. So,
interesting thought. I guess the way it seems to me like it works, and it clearly did not work in this case, but it's like, if there's always somebody better than you, it's like if the cops are going to be as smart as you or smarter than you, then you're going to be as careful as possible when you're planning your crime, right? So
I guess, yeah.
That's the way I looked at it, except that that's not what happened here. It was like she was committing a crime with someone else and they played her. So
yeah.
Let's see. So the strikers once called themselves Mulad'Dil. Their nation had been folded into the Empire so long ago, few used that name. Lean and muscular, pale skin, hair almost as dark as Shai's. So yeah, we get some description of these different races, but not a whole lot. She says her people, the My Pawn, were not known for their stature. And she tries to strike up a conversation with like the lead guard guy, the guard captain. It's like, oh yeah, you really got to grab me and threw me over your horse. That was a nice horse, man. You got some, you know your horse flesh. And the guy's like, I'm going to enjoy killing you, woman. All right, okay then.
Jeez, that's escalated quickly.
Right?
It's like flashback to the well with Kelsier and the sexy drifter, and it's like, you really don't understand this game, do you?
Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. Oh gosh. And so I don't know. I guess I could just go ahead and tell you guys, because it really does not come up in the story, although he'll be mentioned a couple more times. You may possibly have been able to guess that the Imperial Fool is speaking of our friend, the sexy drifter. That's who that was.
That was gonna be my predicament.
Sorry. Yeah, he doesn't show up, so I thought, well, why not?
Fair enough.
Way to take our sexy predicaments away.
And in the original version of this story, the prologue was him like sitting at the door to her prison and having a conversation with her about how he played her, basically. But that got cut out because it seemed more appropriate, he thought, to do it this other way. So he's only mentioned in passing. And the Moon Scepter, people have asked, and Brandon has said, that is a thing that can help you translate the magic systems from one to another on Cell, because each one is kind of like a programming language, is the way he describes it. And the Moon Scepter is a thing that can help translate from one to the other language. I don't quite understand exactly how that works, but that's what the thing is, and that's why he stole it.
Definitely seems like something our sexy drifter friend would be interested in.
Right?
Yeah, that dude loves artifacts.
Well, it's interesting that, like, if that was him, if he was the Imperial Fool, like, I'm guessing from the capitalization, he's basically like, you know, the fool, as in like the court jester or that sort of thing. Like,
yeah,
but once in his life, he wasn't posing as a beggar.
Maybe this is just his other favorite costume. He's going to be the jester at all the other books or something.
And now I'm picturing him just like, yeah, like it's like, oh man, just gonna dance around and caper for your amusement. And Joe's just like, yes, please do.
Very sexy capering. Keep it up.
Do it. Don't stop.
Now we're getting very 50 Shades of Grey or something. Let's
Whoa.
not.
Whoa. Don't make me have to be that kind of guy.
I've never actually seen or read that, so I'm just
Yeah, it's. I mean, I haven't either, but it's clearly trash.
burn. Okay. Oh gosh. But yeah, as they're walking her down the hallway, she's thinking about like all the stuff in these ancient styles, and she's like, oh, so the Heritage faction is still ruling. So the Emperor is from that faction, as are the Arbiters, who do much of the actual ruling. And this faction lauds the glory and learning of the past, even going so far as to rebuild the wing of the palace as an imitation of an ancient building. And so she sees all these like vases and things. They're replicas of ancient, or she assumes are probably replicas of ancient urns with soul stamps on the bottom that transform them into what they look like, into these replicas. But I find out later that is in fact the case. They're actually kind of like the vase that she takes is kind of a shitty piece that they then stamp to make nice. And she's a little bit bitter about this. She's like, they call my powers an abomination, but they use this shit all the time for this kind of thing. The only thing that's technically illegal is forging a person. So she gets led to the Arbiter study. She's like, 5th century hunting lodge. They've replicated maybe different rooms look like different eras or something. That's actually kind of a cool idea. So yeah, all 5 Arbiters are inside. 2 women and 1 man sitting on over to the side, and then Frava and Gautonos. Yeah, 3 women and 2 men. Frava is senior amongst the Arbiters, probably the most powerful person in the Empire other than the Emperor. And apparently, despite the fact that she's senior, Gautona is, I guess, the oldest one, she says. Yeah, the eldest of the ruling Arbiters. So, but he's a little bit out of favor at the moment. And Frava starts to kind of try to play her a little bit. And he's like, oh, you got a lot of crimes to your name. But Shai seems very intuitive. And she's like, the way that she says that, she's playing some sort of game. What is it that she wants? Impersonating a noblewoman of rank, breaking into the Imperial Gallery, reforging your own soul, the attempted theft of the Moon Scepter. Like, did you really think that we'd fail to recognize a simple forgery of such an important possession? Shai's like, I guess they did, because assuming that the fool escaped with the original, that means that my forgery is now on display.
Y'all think it's real.
Gave it to Oscar Isaac.
Oh no, you can't be the sexy drifter.
No, he's Moon Knight.
Oh
Yeah, it's true.
Right. I got it.
Khonshu and yeah, I got you.
Kaiju?
Khonshu. That's the god that gives Moon Knight his power or whatever.
Yeah,
Yep.
it would have been cooler if it was a kaiju.
He gets his power from a kaiju.
Yeah.
Godzilla's
Mothra
like, you
shows
will be
up.
my avatar.
Nah, totally. It's gotta be Mothra. He shows up. He's like, I'm a moth. I love the light of the moon. Here, take this power. That's the Moon Knight origin story I want. Mothra shows up, throws down some powers. Sounds good to me.
You sound very far away.
I probably just need to move my mic here. Does that sound better?
I think about the same actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on. I got a little cord issue here. Give me just a sec.
Well.
All right, is that any better?
A little bit better, yeah.
Okay.
But they pull out this painting, Lily of the Spring Pond, the one that Gautona had been looking at the beginning. It's apparently a masterpiece of Han Shu Shen. I assume. I don't know how you pronounce the capital X in the middle of the word, but that's what I'm going with. And Frava's like, yeah, I mean, this is a copy of a painting that I own, one of the most famous paintings in the Empire, and our assessors judged that your forgery was amateur at best. Which, okay, yeah, I mean, very condescending, okay.
Also hilarious, given that they're about to use it and go, because you're really talented, we need you to do this. but your painting's shit.
That is really funny,
Yeah.
actually.
You're such
you
an
suck.
amateur, but we need you to like replicate the soul of the most important person ever.
You suck. Help us immediately.
But she's like, why did you have this painting if you were going after the Moon Scepter? And Shai's explanation is that my Uncle Juan always told me to have a backup plan. I couldn't be sure the scepter would even be on display. So I was like, oh, okay. She adopted an almost maternal expression, though it was laden with loathing, hidden poorly, and condescension. Wow, that's a packed sentence. I'm just like picturing this look now where she's like, oh yeah, but I hate you and think you're shit. And Frau's like, I mean, you requested arbiter intervention, but you can't possibly think we'd let you off with all these crimes, can you? Meanwhile, Shai's looking around like something's wrong here. They're all worried. No one is saying anything. They're pretending not to be paying attention, but they're clearly listening. And she senses that there's an opportunity here. And she says, it was time to take control of this conversation. And she just goes, okay, so you want something from me. I'm ready to discuss payment. And Frau was like, excuse me? Girl, you are to be executed on the morrow. If we did wish something of you, the payment would be your life. And Shai's like, no, I mean, I could have been out of here any time. Like, my life has been my own for days. And Frau was like, right, you were locked in the forger's cell with 30 different kinds of stone. And Shai goes, 44 kinds, actually. And Gautona raises an eyebrow, and she's like, man, I'm glad I got that right. And so she comes up with this whole plan for the story of how she would have escaped by transforming the rock of the cell wall from the 44 different kinds of rock that it was into this other kind of rock that will burn. Because she established earlier, she's like, there's another trick beyond the rock that's going to be here. And so she guesses here that they have plates of Ralkalest, the unforgeable metal, hidden behind the rock wall of my cell. And so she's like, a thin plate of that? Well, I could have turned all these rocks into anthracite, which will burn, and then burned a hole in the plate of metal and escaped that way. And then she looks around and
making a lot of bold guesses here.
Right? But it totally works for her. Like,
I mean, luckily.
Yeah.
Imagine her sitting there going, oh no, there's like a 6-foot deep plate of metal. Like, you are never getting through that.
But I mean, it also helps that like Gautona knows that she's full of shit and is just letting this play out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do find out later that Gautona at least has his suspicions that it's not nearly as simple as what she's saying. Frava, on the other case, seems convinced. Like, she's like, oh my gosh, they actually bought it. I was worried they would know enough about forgery to see through that bullshit that I was spinning. And Shai's like, I mean, I was going to escape tonight, but since it sounds like you've got something interesting, so maybe I'm interested. Let's talk about my payment. And Farava's like, well, I could still have you executed right now. And Shai just calls her bluff, like, but you're not gonna, are you? Oh, I love her. She's fun. She's kind of a Kelsier. I almost said villainous, but just like she's a criminal and is kind of flippant and stuff, and I love it.
But she just cuts straight to the heart of every matter. It's like, no, you can't do this because you need me, so you're gonna have to pay me something. So cough up.
To be fair, Kelsier was also pretty flippant, and he was also a criminal.
That's what I'm saying. Like they're similar in that way.
I think he was just much more over the top. He would just make a whole song and dance about how, guess someone needs me now, do they? Whereas Shai's just like, well, you need me, so what are you giving me?
Right. Yeah. Let's cut the bullshit. You're trying real hard to play me and do this whole song and dance. I don't care. Let's talk turkey, as they say. But she's also just really good at reading people, and so that's a cool quality I feel like to have in a central character here.
I prefer ham over turkey, just in case anybody wants.
But Gautona, on the other hand, she is not able to get a read on. It says she found this aged man as difficult to read as a book in Sfordish, which is there's the Sfordish reference that Dac brought up earlier. So they know of the existence of this place, at least. But then we find out what the payment is going to be. They have her essence marks, is what they are called. A special kind of soul stamp intended to rewrite a person's entire history, personality, and soul for a short time. And these 5 were specifically for Shai. Each of these, Frava says, is an abomination, illegal to possess 5 stamps that rewrite a soul. These were going to be destroyed this afternoon. Even if you'd escaped, you would have lost them. How long does it take to make one of these? And she's like, years. So that's a big deal. And she's like, okay, so you'll accept these as payment? And Shai says yes. And Frava says, okay, well, let me show you what we're going to have you doing. Show you to your desk and let you know about your work. Oh, wait, no, it's the Emperor's quarters. And I somehow I just really love the line. Shai had never met an Emperor before, let alone poked one in the face.
That's such a good line.
You just picture this girl sitting there like poke at this sleeping or in bed guy. I guess he's not sleeping. It says he's staring ahead blankly.
But it's like, because it also comes right at the start of the scene, you just imagine she just walked through the door and just got jab.
You just walk straight in. No idea what's going on, but I see a guy in bed and I'm going to poke him.
I assume she thought he wasn't very responsive, and she's just like, Poke. Yeah, he's
Please
definitely
refrain from
alive.
poking the Emperor.
You poked our emperor. Sounds sexual. I'm gonna take that.
It
one.
does, yeah. Emperor Ashravan of the 80 Sons, 49th ruler of the Rose Empire. Honestly, when it says the 80 Sons, my first thought is he's 80 years old, but then later we find out he's like 40 years old. So 80 Sons is about something else.
80 sons. They said there's 80 parties. Maybe they're
Yeah.
related.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe they each have a son. S-U-N, not S-O-N, for since other people can't see what I'm saying. But
No,
yeah.
he did not get that busy.
Yeah, yeah, he's just impregnated 80 women with sons, and that's what the emperor does, didn't you know?
Man, if he's got 80 sons, how many daughters does he have?
Right? Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot of childbearing.
I mean, it could be like a Weasley thing where you just keep trying until you get a daughter and you end up with a whole bunch.
Sure.
But anyway, so assassins broke in 2 nights before, killed the emperor's wife, and shot a crossbow bolt through the head of the emperor, which does not kill him, I guess. That's good.
He took a crossbow bolt to the head. Okay, well, in that case, he looks great.
Exactly, yeah. It's like, oh, well, should have said that. No, he's real good. So she says he looks good because of the whole crossbow bolt thing we talked about. And then Gautona says, are you familiar with resealing? Which is apparently, it's like medical forgery. You can forge the body parts back into where they're supposed to be to heal.
It makes no sense.
It's just extremely dangerous because if you don't get everything exactly right, you might fuck it up even worse.
Yeah. Can you imagine they like try to reseal his head and then they just give him like an embolism?
Exactly, yeah. It's like, oh no, I made this thing say that the leg is attached to the shoulder instead of the. That's my bad.
I'm a monster.
Dr. Riviera, Dr. Nick Riviera.
And once again, she's a little bit bitter. She's like, oh yeah, they use that kind of forgery is okay. It's only my kind that's illegal, whatever. So he says our resealers are the best in the world, and they attended to the emperor immediately following the assassination attempt and healed the wound, but not his mind. And she's like, well, so they didn't heal his mind? It doesn't sound to me like they did a good job at all. And one of the doctors, quote unquote, I guess doctors, is like, hey, not that easy. And so they suspect that the Glory faction is behind the assassination attempt, but they cannot prove it. And Shai's thinking, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I mean, if the Emperor dies, there's a good chance that the Glory faction would win a bid to elevate his successor. At 40, he was still young by grand standards and could be expected to rule another 50 years. So these people, they last a while. Is what that's the Grands, at least. Who knows about the other races? I guess.
Yeah. He's the 49th ruler. Man, this is an old empire.
I guess it depends. Some of them may not have ruled very long. Who knows?
Yeah.
And they can be killed.
Yep, clearly. Yeah, so it's the 5 arbiters in the room, if that happened, would lose their jobs, and by imperial politics would become basically the lowest of the empire's 80 factions instead of the most important. So yeah, there's the 80 factions. You're right. That is a bunch of like, how can you have enough different political parties to have that?
Dude, I still try to wrap my head around this Republican Democrat thing. Don't even get me started. I don't know.
I mean, also like if this is their faction, like are they the entire faction? These 5 guys,
right?
Like, maybe it's easier if the factions are all just like, small groups of people.
That's a good point. Yeah, it'd be easy to have 80 if you've got like 6 guys in each group. Then yeah, no, that makes sense. And so they're like, what we want you to do, because the Glory faction doesn't know if their ploy succeeded. We killed all of the assassins, so we want you to replace the Emperor's soul with a forgery. And Shai thinks that's crazy. Like, forging your own soul is hard enough. You don't have to start from the ground up on that. And she thinks these guys have no idea what they're talking about, but of course they don't. They don't know anything about forgery, so obviously they have no idea what a difficult thing they're asking for. And she's like, they don't have anybody who could possibly do this because it's so illegal, and probably I can't do it either. But when Gautona's like, so can you do it? She thinks I have no idea and says yes, because that is the answer you have to give.
And I mean, at that stage, they're going to kill her tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or they kill her later.
Like, what do you have to lose? Exactly.
Yeah.
And so she's like, oh, all right, well, then I'm going to need information about this guy. I need to know everything about him, essentially. Official histories are good, but they're too sterile. I need interviews, extensive interviews and writings from the people closest to him who knew him best, servants, friends, family members. He has his own journals And so she's like, awesome, I need to read those. And one of the other arbiters is like, but he wanted those destroyed. And everyone just turns and stares that guy down. He's like, oh, never mind.
Quiet, Jimmy.
Yeah, exactly. But he wanted those destroyed.
Yeah, that's for sure.
These people are told the Council of Incompetent Robot Elders or whatever, yeah.
Yep.
And she needs a test subject, a grand, so someone the same race, a male, someone who was around the Emperor a lot and knew him well. So that's interesting. Can't wait to see what that's about. How do you test? And she needs some soul stone, lots of soul stone, which I don't think we've heard of before, but she's just like, look, I could carve a stamp out of wood if I had to, but this is already hard enough. I need soul stone.
Yeah,
Okay.
if I'm going to do this, you are going to get me all of the correct materials.
That's fair, right?
Yeah. Hey, you want me to do it right? You need to get me the right stuff, damn it.
And Frava's like, okay, but we're going to be watching you closely these 3 months. And she's like, 3 months? No, this is going to take like 2 years minimum. And Frava says, no, you have 100 days. Actually, 98 days now, which I feel like 100. So the official story is he's in mourning for the death of his wife for 100 days, so no one can see him. After that, the Glory faction is going to expect to see him, or there's going to be hell to pay. So I think 100 days mourning period, that's a long time to be like, no, I, the ruler of this country, am not going to see anyone for 100 days. But whatever.
Yeah, well, they expect him to rule for another 50 years. What's 100 days?
Yeah, fair point.
Yeah, I guess so.
And so they're like, look, if we don't have him after the 100 days is done, then we're through. And so are you, the woman's tone implied. And like Shai's already talked about her payment, but she's like, okay, I'm going to want gold for this also. Like, what you're asking is ridiculous. Take whatever you're thinking I'll demand and double it. I want to be a rich woman when I leave here. And Frava says, done. And Shai's like, that's way too easy. Damn it. They're going to kill me when I'm done.
Kill me.
She's too good at reading people. And she's like, okay, so I'm going to need all my stuff. Not the essence marks, but everything else. Which she mentions earlier that she needs glasses, but she's trying hard not to squint so that she doesn't show any weakness. So it seems like giving her glasses back would be a good thing, yeah. And the day 2 ends with her being like, and have someone draw me a bath. The next day, bathed, well-fed, and well-rested. There's a knock at the door of her new prison, her new room. I mean, she's a prisoner in this one room, and it's not a very nice room. She's like, it's probably the tiniest, most drab place in the whole palace, and it smells like mildew, but whatever. It's better than a prison cell.
Yeah.
There's a dead rat in the corner, but no one cares about that.
We'll forge that into something better. It's fine.
Yeah, I'll forge it into, like, a dead mouse. At least it's smaller then.
I can lob it out the window that way.
Like, she's looking at the old cedar table in the room, and she's like, this probably hasn't been cleaned in longer than I've been alive. This place sucks. Gautona comes in, carrying a box, and Shai rushes forward, drawing a glare from Captain Zoo. That's the name of the captain we met earlier, who was an asshole. And he's like, keep your distance. Or what? You'll stab me? She's like, you guys need me. I don't know why you're trying to. And he's like, someday I will enjoy. She's like, yeah, whatever. We've done this whole thing already. It's fine.
Again, cut the bullshit. She's great.
And she opens it, and there's 18 soul stamps inside. Their heads smooth and unetched, so she's got some materials to work with now. She also takes some time to describe her outfit to us. She's got her own clothes and her glasses back. And I just like, she's wearing a blouse and a skirt, which she's like, the Grands would find that unfashionable. Ancient-looking robes are the current style. But under that, she's got a whole different outfit because you never know when you're going to need to ditch your outer layer of clothing to create a disguise.
I just had flashbacks to Vin in this one. Like, throw off the shoes, remove the dress, run. And like, at least she's prepared with her leggings on. She's got her active wear underneath. She's ready to go.
Vin should have taken a lesson from this, where she always ends up in her underwear for some reason. And it's like, no, just wear something else under. It's fine. And so she starts, she has one of her chisels, and she starts working on the soul stamp. And she's like, oh, it is good soul stone. So it's a very soft stone that you can carve really well. It doesn't chip when you scrape it, so you can make a very detailed carving on here. And then when you put a fire to it, it hardens to be very strong, closer quartz, she's in strength. So the only way to get a better stamp was to carve one from crystal itself, which was incredibly difficult. And then they provided some red squid's ink. And she just mentions that inks that come from animals are better than inks from plants. So I wonder why.
Good old squid ink.
This letter I'm writing to my uncle must be very personal, so I'm using my own ink.
Oh,
Did my sandwich always also appreciate the value? Oh, please,
You
oh,
didn't even
please.
refrigerate it.
You spineless lobster. You had to drag spines into the... Yeah, okay. Anyway. We watched... after I finished editing one of our recent episodes yesterday, and we had a bunch... It was one where we were referencing the Balls episode.
I mean, we did that a lot.
Well, we have done that a lot.
In Elantris.
Yeah. But so after that, I was like, you know what? I got to go and watch that episode now. So yesterday, me and the older kids watched Hell is the H Word.
Brilliant.
And it was funny. Although the version I found on YouTube was clearly like taken from an episode broadcast on television, and a bunch of stuff was cut. And anyway, so
Isn't it on Disney Plus now?
no, it is not. It is on Hulu, which I no
It's on-
longer have a subscription to.
Oh,
It's on Hulu.
It might be on
Disney Plus
y'all's,
for
I
us.
guess. Yeah, I forgot that y'all have like a whole different set of
Oh, yeah.
contracts and stuff.
Yeah, just get a
Yeah.
VPN. You can watch their stuff.
There you go. Then I have to pay for a VPN.
I mean, I'm surprised you don't already have one.
Yeah.
Protect your privacy, dog.
So anyway, Gautona's like, did you steal a vase from the hallway outside? Because there's a vase over in the corner. And she had snatched one on the way back from the bath last night, and one of the guards tried to interfere, but she talked her way past it. She's good. I don't know how you talk the guard
She's
into
like,
this.
nah. I need this. For what? You know, for crapping in. Oh, okay.
It's very important for my work, which you don't know what my work is, but it's super important.
The guard is just there watching this play out, just doing the whole. Uh-oh.
Wasn't me. And so she's like, oh, now that you mention it, and she grabs the vase and she finds the red seal imprinted into the clay on the bottom. And so the forger seal isn't just like ink on the object surface. It sinks into the material somehow, creating a depressed pattern. But the rim is slightly raised. And she thinks that you can tell a lot about a person from the way they design their seals, and this one has a very sterile feel, no art to it. Probably the Heritage faction had a bunch of half-trained forgers just like churning these things out in a factory somewhere. And Gautona's like, no, our workers are not forgers. They are rememberers. We don't use that word.
I mean, come on. Rememberers, that's a stupid word.
Forger sounds way cooler. I'll give you that for sure.
I mean, if you're going to talk about them doing stuff like from, recreating stuff from the past, just call them like something like archivist. Like, that's so much.
Yeah.
Like, it means the same thing, and it sounds so much cooler. Rememberers just sounds. Oh, wow.
Well, they're not the most artistic and creative faction, these people.
I guess.
And he's trying to be like, look, we don't, our people don't try to fool people or scam them. That's not what we're about. We're about creating a better understanding of our heritage. Whatever, dude. And so she takes the chisel and the mallet and she breaks the seal, which apparently resists. There's a kind of force to it that tries to keep it in place. But once you break it, it vanishes and loses its power, and the vase fades to a plain gray, misshapen vase, because the soul stamp doesn't just make visual changes. It doesn't make it look different. It rewrites the object's history, which is why she needed to know the history of the rocks in the wall of the cell to turn them into something else.
Rewrite history, DuckTales.
And so she's sitting here carving a soul stamp. She's like, whatever, it helps me think. This isn't for the Emperor or anything. I'm just doing my thing. So I wonder what she is carving it for. And Gautona is here like, you're a problem. A puzzle is what he calls it. And she's like, oh, I'm a puzzle? Really? What kind of puzzle? And he's like, basically, we can't trust you. You're going to try to run the moment you think you can escape. And she's like, well, leave guards with me. He's like, well, I don't doubt that you'd be able to bribe, bully, or blackmail any guard that we left with you for long enough. And Zu is unhappy about that. And Gautona's like, look, I'm sorry, but I believe in your people, but this woman is like, this is the devil here. You can't be too careful. And Shai's like, oh, thanks. He's like, that wasn't a compliment at all. Okay. I worried about leaving you alone for even one day under the supervision of mortal eyes. From what I know of you, you could nearly charm the gods themselves. We can't chain you up. We got to give you soulstone to work on the thing, so you can just turn your manacles to soap and escape. And she's thinking, this guy clearly does not understand a lot about forgery, because who the hell would make a chain out of soap? That's ridiculous.
I love that then she goes on to explain what she would do in that situation.
Exactly. She's like, I could escape, just like he says. It's just, it wouldn't be that way. Yeah, so she could rewrite the chain's history in some way to make it breakable. And even if they made it out of the unforgeable metal, she could forge the environment around it to be able to get out somehow. So she's good. She's as good as he says, basically. And he's right to be worried. Is the conclusion we can draw. And she tries to play it off like, well, but I'm intrigued. Like, you guys have promised me wealth and given me this really interesting task. Well, you don't have to worry about me. Remember, I could have gotten out of here at any time from my previous cell. And this is where Gautona shows that he does know a little bit, at least, because he's like, oh, yeah, you mean the cell that you were going to turn the wall into anthracite and light it on fire? I don't know how you would have gotten it hot enough, but even if you could, how did you plan on surviving in a cell where the wall was aflame at over 2,000 degrees? Also, wouldn't the fire take all the breathable air? And she's like, yeah, okay, so this guy knows a little bit. Underestimated him a tiny bit. He clearly knows that I was bullshitting yesterday, but he went along with it. So, and she admits to herself, it's like it would have been very hard to forge the whole wall. She would have had to rewrite the history of each block from a different quarry to all somehow accidentally have been anthracite instead. A huge stretch. Plausibility is the key to any forgery, magical or not. People talked about turning lead into gold, but it was actually way easier to do the reverse. Inventing a history for a bar of gold where someone had adulterated it with lead somewhere along the line was a plausible lie. The reverse was so unlikely that a stamp to make the transformation would not take for long. That makes sense, right? I mean, it's really hard to explain how, oh yeah, this looks like lead, but it was actually gold at some point. And so somebody like painting a bar of lead to look like gold to like steal the actual bar. That's way more likely. And she says, you impress me, Your Grace. You think like a forger. And he gets a sour expression. He's like, no, that was a compliment. And he pulls out. He's like, look, I saw the painting you did. That was amazing. And yet it was accomplished in the name of lies. What great works you could create if you focused on industry and beauty instead of wealth and deception. And she's like, hey, what I do is art. And he's like, no, you copy other people's art. What you do is completely lacking in spirit. And that pisses her off.
This really struck me as kind of this is someone saying, it's like, no, you write fan fiction. That's not real fiction. And she's like the fan fiction author who's just like, how dare you?
She goes so far as to be like, threatening to execute me is one thing, but insulting my art? No. Nah. Now you've gone too far. And so she's like, okay, fine. How are you going to keep me in line since I'm the most vile wretches to slither the halls of the palace? And he's like, well, whenever possible, I'm going to be here personally to observe you. And the Captain Zoo will be here with me. And he's the only one of the strikers who knows about the Emperor's injuries and knows the plan. So she can't speak about what she's doing to any of the other guards. Important note. And she says, the more people who know about a forgery, the more likely it is to fail. So that's another interesting note. And she doesn't dislike, she talks about how she doesn't dislike the strikers so much because basically they're just kind of another kind of slave of the Empire. I guess their territory got taken over by the Empire and they were just turned into these servants or whatever, or soldiers.
Watchdogs. Yeah.
But then there's the second method of keeping her under control. And they call in a dude in a cloak, a face with milky white skin and red eyes. And she's like, oh my, you call what I do an abomination? And so he says he's going to place a rune on the door. And if she leaves the room for any reason or alters the rune or the door, this guy's pets will come for her. And she says, a blood sealer? You invited a blood sealer into the palace? She tells us that a blood sealer kind of does something similar to what she does, except he creates forgeries of human life crafted from the skeletons of the dead. I don't know I don't know how to picture that working, but
so she's like indie rock, and that guy's like metal, basically, is what I'm getting.
This guy's okay. Yeah, he's very metal. With the red eyes, and yeah, no, totally. And they have to take some of her blood to make the stamp, and she is outraged. It's like better to be dead than have someone dare this sort of thing. And she has to do a mental exercise where she metaphorically forges herself into a different version of herself that can deal with the outrage.
Nobody makes me bleed my own blood. Nobody.
I love this. I'm really intrigued by this method of mental fortitude she's got. It's like, all right, become someone who can deal with this. I'm like, wow, I need to know more about this. This sounds really interesting.
It's like a real life skill.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Life hack.
Very useful if you could get that down. I mean, it makes sense for the character because she's apparently spent years developing the essence marks that we saw that transform her into something or someone else. So just thinking about it in that way is probably something that she's used to.
Yeah.
She's kind of bitter about this guy too. But beyond the fact that he's taking her blood and for his evil, disgusting magic, His lips were white and faintly translucent like the skin of a maggot. She really doesn't like the guy. I don't know that I blame her, but that's a little bit harsh.
And he sounds terrifying.
Yeah, kind of does.
Maybe it's just the reference to bone, but like I feel like, okay, so this guy is basically the Rose Empire's equivalent of the Dark Hall monks.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Yeah.
Traffic in darkness, deal with bones. All the weird shit.
Creates pets from bone, forgeries of human life, created from the skeletons of the dead. So he's got pets, skeleton pets? I don't know. It's weird. But she knows enough about this magic to know that what he's saying is true. If she, like, the stamp uses her blood, so it's tuned to her. If she leaves the room, he's gonna know. And he can send his undead pets.
It basically sounds like he's a necromancer. He uses runes to do necromancy, and then
Yeah. Okay.
Basically,
he's got bone slave puppet things.
That makes sense. And Gautona tells her, if you do run, we're going to give you to the Blood Sealer. Your bones will become his next pet. This promise was all he requested in payment. So that's nice. Jeez. And then our final day is a pretty short one, actually. But she started working. She's digging through, like, biographies, the accounts of the Emperor's life. And she's thinking, like, I don't think that this can actually be done. Creating a believable forgery of another man's soul in this short a time, I don't think it's possible. But I have to make a good show of trying it while I plan my actual escape. Each morning, the Blood Sealer comes back and takes some more of her blood to renew the stamp on the door. Gautona shows up to watch her work with eyes that judged but also did not hate. And she decides that getting free is probably going to require manipulating this man in some way. And that's the end of... That's just like not even like a page and a half or something in my version.
Yeah, when we were reading it, I was like really surprised. I was like, oh, that's the end. That was a quick one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially because that last sentence is on a like its own page in my version.
It's like, if it like in the book we've got, it's like if it didn't have day 5 and the soul stamp symbol thing, like that whole thing would have fit on one page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's about the same here. So yeah, that's the beginning of the Emperor's Soul. So let's do predicaments. What do you guys think? What is going to happen here?
I don't have a lot yet. I'm sort of hoping that we end up finding out something real juicy about the Emperor. I don't know. Maybe he is also quite skilled in forging. Maybe he was like already a forged soul or something. That would be kind of cool.
Interesting.
But yeah, I don't know. We know we've got 100 days and we're at day 5, so it's still pretty early. And what did you say? We've got 4 weeks on this book, 4 weeks on this story, 4 episodes.
Yeah, that's how I have it mapped out, is for 4.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a little bit early. I mean, like I was going to say that Hoyd was our fool, which you've confirmed. So I think it might be predicament. No, that's pretty much all I've got, really. Just sort of what I'm hoping for at this point.
Okay. Sorry, I stole your prediction.
How dare you?
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go for it. I think like she's not gonna have the appropriate amount of time to make the Emperor's Soul the way that it needs to be made. Like, it's just not gonna work out for her. And so either my first prediction is that she will actually have to disguise herself as the Emperor, since she's studied so much about him. She's just going to disguise herself as the Emperor and then like act in his stead by way of the Arbiters. But then because she'll be in the position as the Emperor, she'll be able to kind of turn the tables on them. That would be my first prediction. My second prediction to go along with that, so it's the same line of thinking, but she'll be using a proxy. So like she'll manipulate, let's just say Gautona or whatever his name is, and he'll be used as the Emperor, disguising him and forging him into the Emperor. So those are my 2 predicaments for what could possibly happen.
Interesting. I like this idea of like the disguise to like take the person's place, either herself or someone else, to try to manipulate the events. That would be a neat thing to see.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like part of me says, oh, the Blood Sealer is going to be like the main villain of the piece, and it's like, no, he's too obvious. So now I feel like maybe Frava is actually going to be behind the assassination somehow, or possibly not Frava, Gautona. Sorry, I got it mixed up, because like Gautona is obviously out of favor within his own faction. So like if he's actually trying to turn it all and to get rid of Frava, so that then he's in charge somehow. Yeah. don't have too much, but that's where I think it's going to go.
I like that. That would be very sneaky if this guy that turns out to be this is like Eshin as the secret villain all over again.
Yeah.
Classic.
Classic Eshin, you know her. So for next time, we will be reading day 12, day 17, day 30, and day 42. And to help
Cruising through.
that's almost halfway through her 100 days. And to help Dak like last time, the next day, the one that you're not going to read is day 58.
Cool.
I'll pop those in our chat here in a minute. If anyone would like to send us emails, the email address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter and all those sorts of places on the interwebs where things happen. It's going to be a shorter episode, but really it's a shorter section of the book that we read than normal. We honestly probably could have done this in like 2 episodes if we read kind of the max that I usually allow, but I broke it up a little smaller to give us some more time.
It's fine.
That's all good.
So anyway, I hope everyone is enjoying. I forgot to mention off the top that the new song is Replica by Miracle of Sound. So music by Miracle of Sound once again. Check that out if you enjoy the clip that you get from the intro and the outro. And come back next time for the 4 more days in the life of Shai.
Yep. Wasing to the time of next Colo Nights. She says that, right? She's like, Nights.
She does.
I did not remember she said that, but yeah, no, I think you're right.
Kohler Nights.
I was about to say, it sounds like a Boogie Nights sort of...
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like a fragrance.
Sure.
Polo nut.
I'm not committing to adapting something from
Colo
this book
Nights
to go to on the signature.
by Dior. Colo Nights, Dolce & Gabbana. Colo Nights by Calvin Klein. There we go. That's the ticket.
Oh my gosh. Pausing to the time of next. Colo?
Nights.
Not Nights. I refuse.
No and then.